Light years from this solar system exists a galaxy known as Irnan. Though the inhabitants of this galaxy have lived in peace and prosperity for many decades, events have been observed recently which indicate that life won't be so rosy in the future. The galactic government has become corrupt and unresponsive. Young Irnonians have grown rebellious and hostile. Lunatics and sub-delta morons have taken control of the TV networks. Actually, this happened centuries ago, but nobody noticed until just recently. Worst of all, the sun, on which the Earth-like planet Xenon relies for the building blocks of life, is dying. An old system whose cosmic fountain now flows weakly, Irnan faces its own extinction, Xenon's population of organics apparently destined to stand witness to its own demise. As the sun of Xenon slowly dies, the planet grows cold. The very basics of life are threatened. Food is no longer plentiful. The resulting atmospheric cataclysms alone could quickly lay waste to a civilization spanning thousands of generations. Xenon scientists predict that only certain insect species and most lawyers will survive the resulting ice age. When the governing body of Xenon was made aware of these facts, steps were taken almost immediately, something quite unprecedented in government. After coming to the unanimous, even more unprecedented, conclusion that they didn't want to die, the most talented minds on the planet, along with the rest of their bodies, were charged with the task of saving their world. No, this isn't where you come in. With what amounted to a do-or-die dilemma, they went to work. The result was a radical design for something called the Star Generator, not to be confused with the William Morris Agency. The Star Generator was a device capable of turning a lifeless planet into a raging ball of fire. Or the other way around. Nobody was quite sure, since it had never actually been tested. The development team for the Star Generator project was stationed aboard the space lab Arcata and set to the outer edge of Irnan to further its research. Here's where you come in. You serve as a member of the crew of the Arcata, as a janitor. That's right, a janitor, and not a very good one. You'd certainly have been sacked and replaced were the Arcata not millions of kilometers from Xenon. Not that distance was a prime factor, they'd have chucked you out in a second, only nobody really wanted your job. Otherwise, you'd be touring the cosmos up close and personal. Besides, nobody expects the Arcata to return safely to Xenon anyway. Anyway, after months of development and testing, the mission has been completed. Although still in the experimental stages, the Star Generator appears to be fully operational. The good news is flashed back to Xenon as the crew of the Arcata prepares for the trip home. But the news does not travel far before it reaches unintended ears. Monitoring the Arcata's transmissions are Sariens, space thugs who cruise the galaxies, wreaking havoc and exposing aerosol cans to open flame or fire. Once citizens of Irnan, the Sariens were banished long ago for their warlike ways, not to mention crude table manners. One would think they would have gotten over it by now, but apparently they still hold a grudge. The Sariens' immediate intent is to capture the Star Generator and bring it aboard their battlecruiser Deltar. With the Star Generator in their possession, the Sariens would have the ultimate weapon with which to terrorize the universe and gain sweet revenge against the civilization which ostracized them so long ago. They'd also get invited to the better parties. As your adventure begins, you are currently conducting one of your famous on-shift naps in the janitorial storage closet. You arise slightly annoyed at the commotion which has awakened you so rudely. This does not amuse you, as you had just drifted off to sleep. Immediately, the alarm system is activated and an announcement comes over the intercom that the Arcata is under attack. From your hiding place, workroom, you hear laser blasts mingled with the screams of your crewmates. With a well-developed sense of self-preservation and an interesting set of priorities, you turn around and attempt to go back to sleep. The commotion makes this impossible, so you just know you're going to be cranky later on. Soon the commotion dies down and you are brave enough to take a look outside. You step out of the closet and peer down the corridor. Your eyes fall upon a grisly sight. Several of your fellow crew members' bodies lie strewn about the ship, their posture indicating a total unwillingness to get up and keep living. Although you aren't used to doing a lot of thinking, your job doesn't usually require much, your brain cells kick into high gear. What a mess! How am I going to get those bloodstains off of the floor? In the midst of this intensely deep thought, well, deep for you, you are startled into serious reality when you hear a laser blast followed quite closely by a sickening scream. You briefly consider taking another well-timed nap, but it finally occurs to you that you might be in danger as well. This will never do. As we join our story, the crew of the Arcata is returning home to Xenon after a successful mission developing the star generator. Exhilarated by their accomplishments, they are oblivious to the fact that a sinister craft approaches rapidly from behind. You're startled by the sound of an alarm. Breaking through it, the intercom crackles with the frightened voice of a technician shouting that the Arcata has been boarded by unknown intruders. The transmission ends abruptly in a soundstorm of white noise, soon overtaken by the cold din of silence.
Destruct sequence is engaged. 15 minutes till detonation.
Welcome back to Saving Often. My name is Rick, and today we are embarking on Space Quest 1, the Sarien Encounter. Space Quest is awesome. I love this series. It's probably my second favorite series next to Quest for Glory. I've got so many fond memories of these games. They were the first games that my parents bought. They bought Space Quest 1 with their Tandy back in the early 80s, and my dad and my brother played it obsessively. They fell in love with the humor and the puzzles, and when I came along a few years later, they passed that love down to me. So Space Quest is probably my first adventure game love. It's what they played so much. I remember watching them play it. I remember falling asleep listening to my dad playing it. I remember being scared by some of the scenes that I saw. This series is a real treat. If you've never seen it before, it's funny as hell all throughout. There's very sharp, dry, sarcastic writing. It honestly was a big influence on my own sense of humor. As I've gone back and played these games again as an adult, I've realized just how much it kind of shaped me. But yeah, I wanted to start with Space Quest 1. I'd like to go through this entire series because the whole thing is worth playing and seeing, and I thought that it would be fun to experience it again from the beginning. I'm not playing the original version of Space Quest 1, I'm playing the VGA remake, and that's because, unpopular opinion maybe, but I kind of prefer this version. I know that, for example, Scott Murphy, one of the designers, he does not care for the VGA remake. In fact, I believe that he utterly hates it. And it's not one that was particularly well received, but I don't know. I really like it. I love the 1950s sci-fi B-movie aesthetic and just the whole look and feel of it. I like it a lot more than the AGI original, so I figured that I would start here and work our way through to Space Quest 6. So, as you saw in the beginning, I read the introduction from the manual, and the Arcata is under attack by the Sariens, and we are Roger Wilco, Space Guy. We have just woken up from a nap in the broom closet, and we are raring to go and get ourselves off of this sinking ship. So let's go ahead and have at it. I see I have a countdown here in the bottom corner. I've got 15 minutes to get off of this ship, so we'd better haul ass and save our bacon. We are in the data archive of the Arcata. An interesting array of devices, none of which you know how to operate, are provided for data study by those with proper clearance. And this is a Model DX cartridge retrieval unit. Its function is to retrieve and return cartridges from and to the storage unit. It is currently empty. This is the operation console of the data archive unit. There's a CRT and a chair. This little guy is going to be very important to us because this is the copyright protection for Space Quest 1. As you will see, we will need to retrieve a certain cartridge from this unit using a code from the manual. And the sinister thing about this particular copy protection is that you don't know if you screwed it up until way later in the game. So if you got the code wrong, or more likely pirated the game, you get to a point much later where you're just screwed and you can't complete it, and that's your penalty for not buying an authorized copy of the game. So we'll get to that in a little bit. For now, we're still exploring the Arcata. For some reason, my mouse isn't sticking to the walls today. Why not? There we go. Oh, okay, I hear footsteps. So the Sariens are patrolling this ship, and if we are not careful, let's go ahead and save my game here. If we're not careful and we don't get out of their way, they'll make us into space toast. As you see, you have lots of time to get away. Lots of time. The aliens observe their handiwork briefly before looking for others to process in similar fashion. As you lie on the floor in a smoldering carbo-gelatinous heap, you just can't help but wonder why you bothered getting up this morning. I love the deaths in Space Quest games. I've mentioned before that... Oh, wait. Hang on, the door's opening. A man I recognize as one of the head lab scientists stumbles into the room. He appears to be in serious need of some Abdo-Seal abdomen filler. After only a few steps, he hits the floor with a disconcerting thud. So just to finish my thought really quick there, I've mentioned before that I love the Deaths in Sierra games. Another maybe unpopular, controversial opinion. I think they add a lot of flavor to the games. I don't think they're necessarily always fair. I don't think they necessarily have to be. But Space Quest is the primary reason why I love those deaths, because they are just so sardonic, so just funny. They're funny as hell. They're great to see. Some of them are actually pretty gross as well. So I'm going to be following the tradition that I started to set forth in King's Quest V, and I'm going to be attempting to collect as many deaths throughout this series as I possibly can, just to show off how much I love them. But for now, we have a downed scientist. Let's take a look at him. A large laser hole has been burned in his uniform, giving you a nice view of previously unexposed tissue. Struggling painfully, he props himself up on one elbow. Let's talk to him. His lips move. The star generator is in danger. The Arcata is under attack. You'd better get off this scow if you value your life, Wilco. Just before his systems cease all function short of decay, he looks over toward the shelves full of cartridges and utters Van Allen belts. With one last gasp, his lifeless form slumps to the floor. Okay, Van Allen belts. Van Allen belts. We will name our saved game with that, just in case I screw something up here later. So here is the console, the data retrieval console. I now have to pull up the manual, and I have to find the code for the Van Allen belts. Looks like there are about 20 codes in this manual, so they give you plenty of different options in case you pirated the game and still managed to get one accidentally correct. Well, there's a lot of different things that you can put in here. Buttons reside here. You hate buttons. They confuse you so. This is your head. Didn't you learn this stuff a real long time ago? This is your arm. It's you, and you're darn handsome if you do say so yourself. These buttons don't seem to be functioning properly. Okay, so here's the console. So we need Van Allen belts. And those look like a T, and an H, and a T, and a couple of sticks. Cartridge found, now retrieving. Okay, we now have the data cartridge. It's a cartridge from the Arcata's data archive. We also have 3 buckazoids. Buckazoids, to the end of my father's life, was what he referred to as money whenever we would talk. This was very important to him. It was a very special game to him, and thus it's very special to me, and my brother as well. I know he grew up playing these games, and, you know, like I said, they kind of passed it on to me, so... you know, in some way, playing through this series is kind of like, you know, reliving a connection that I have to my father. But enough smarm, let's get off this ship. So we were heading this way before we were waylaid by Sariens. I hear footsteps again. I choose to ignore them. It's all that remains of Jerry, one of the few techno dudes aboard who sometimes tolerated your company. Your low clearance excluded you from visiting him during the performance of his duties in the elegant lower-level airlock of the Arcata. Poor Jerry. You search Jerry's body and find a keycard. Funny, no response. Okay, let's head down. I hear footsteps. Let's hope they're coming from above, but just the same, we're going to save our game. There they are. Failing to notice anyone or anything in the room, the Sarien guards decide to check elsewhere. Way to go, Roger. Alright, let's check out these bodies. A cursory glance indicates that Dave, a lab technician, is dead. Normally, you wouldn't be able to tell, except that his intestines are hanging out of the scorched opening where his abdominal wall used to be. You remember that he was forced to serve in the Xenon National Guard, but he wasn't bitter. This is one of the head research scientists, Blanche. You wanted to get to know her a little better. However, seeing her ruptured chest wall reveals more about her than you were hoping to learn. Your search of Blanche reveals nothing even you'd carry. It's going to be the same thing for our friend Dave over there, so let's just move on. This is the upper support for the star generator when it is affixed to the pedestal. The base of the star generator research pedestal has apparently been trashed by the vandals who stole the generator. You find a small but heavy device affixed to the base of the star generator platform. It appears to be magnetic. That must be how the aliens upset the force field protecting the unit. Well, we gotta have that. It's a genuine widget. You're not sure what it does, but it's heavy, it looks cool, and it might be magnetic. Please keep this away from the game discs. We also have a keycard. It fits an electronic lock someplace on the Arcada. The lifeless body of Randy, one of the lab technicians, lies sprawled at your feet. Those laser blasts are nasty. Why, you can't distinguish one exposed organ from another. Yet another crewman's motionless body reduces the shine of the floor wax. Hugh doesn't look too neat and clean with his lungs hanging out like that. Poor Hugh. Let's go ahead and save that game again, why don't we? We are saving often, after all. This is Stuart, one of your crewmates. He appears to be non-functional. You used to kid him about it when he was alive, but now it's true. Oh, there's the footsteps. Let's haul ass down this elevator. This is a section of one of the lower levels of Arcada. This monitor gives a readout about the ship's status. Only the lab scientist really knew exactly what it monitored. A pair of viewing ports protrude from the materials testing device. Okay. Now we're about to see a very familiar Sierra puzzle. I hear footsteps, so we'd better hide behind the background. Failing to notice anyone or anything in the room, the Sarien guards decide to check elsewhere. Way to go, Roger. Where'd they come from? Let's look around. Oh, 10 minutes. The architects must have been low on oxygen when they came up with the design scheme for this compartment. It's a giant tribute to an ancient but still functional control device. Here, we have a nice chunk of floor space dedicated to a cursor control device named after an annoying rodent. What were they thinking? The view screens offer a glimpse of the surroundings from outboard cameras. They came in handy during the testing phase of the star generator. This keyboard was used in the development of the star generator. It has since been placed here to be out of the way. It has no function. Big, phony wiring from the giant control devices attempts to complete the decorative effect. Did I look at the monitors? I don't think I did. On the screen is some green dude you've never seen the likes of. He seems to be talking, but the audio is out in this area of the ship. This is yet another in a long line of elevators in this game. Ship. Let's save our game. You always meant to ask one of the technicians what this thing is. However, you procrastinated a bit too long in this case. It's either an ocean in a bottle or a model of your stomach as the deadline draws near. This elevator requires a keycard to enter. You slide the keycard into the slot. The lock releases with a satisfying click, and the elevator doors slide open. This is the airlock of the Arcada. You notice a drawer and a button. A small drawer is located just beneath a button. There is a button above the rectangular object below. Perhaps I'll give it a press. You notice some sort of gadget in the drawer. So what did we pick up there? This is some sort of gadget. You're not sure what it does exactly, but it has a switch. The image on the closet door looks familiar, but you can't quite place it. A spacesuit hangs in the closet. A helmet sits on the top shelf. We're gonna need that. The control panel has many confusing gauges on it. The only one you can read says, "Caution, launch bay decompressed." These large red doors serve as the airlock entrance, which empties out to the pod bay. Well, let's head out to the pod bay. We've got to get off this ship. Some alien anchor being is broadcasting a message about the stolen star generator. Here we have the escape pod. A giant silver pill-shaped pod sits poised to fire, much like a bullet in the chamber of an ancient pistol. Well, let's hop in. What could possibly go wrong here? I see nothing that could go wrong. We'd better buckle up. If we don't, we'll certainly die. Let's take a look at this panel here. This is the power button for the escape pod. This button is not to be pushed at any time. This is the auto-nav button. When operative, it allows the pod to navigate to the closest habitable planet. Well, we can't auto-nav because the power is off. So let's power this ship up. And this lever causes forward propulsion of the pod when powered up. Let's propel. And of course we forgot to open the bay doors. Guess those doors are as strong as they look. Not a particularly clever death or death message, but as I said, I'm collecting them. There's probably going to be some that I miss, but just the same. So yeah, we needed to open these bay doors because through this window you can see down into the pod bay, and a pod sits waiting on the launch track. The large bay doors are currently closed. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Much better. I should mention, too, really quickly, the icon interface in this game. It's pretty bog standard Sierra point-and-click interface, but a couple games, I know that this game and Space Quest 4, which makes sense because they were developed around the same time, have a smell and a taste button. I think that Leisure Suit Larry used this gimmick, too, in at least one or two games. These mostly just give you fun little click responses to things. In my experience, they don't have a lot of utility, and I honestly always forget to use them. So if you ever play through Space Quest 1 or Space Quest 4, definitely try these out and see what you get. Again, I don't know that it's anything necessarily that great. There's not a lot that I can smell, like in this room, or taste. So I guess I just kind of conditioned myself to not even bother with those. But you can play this game. It's available on GOG and Steam. You can play this game and see it for yourself. And I highly recommend playing these games. Even if you're watching the Let's Play here or know how to get through them, they're still just fun to play. There's a lot of love and personality that's kind of crammed into these experiences, so highly, highly recommend. Okay. Let's go ahead and save our game again and try this one more time. Taking a look around the pod, I have a survival kit that contains the basics for deep space survival. The aforementioned seatbelt, which is dummy tested, which ought to suit you just fine. The inside of the Arcada's escape pod is not exactly packed with luxurious appointments. However, when it comes to saving one's posterior, this pod's as good as a rolls. This is the pod's instrument console. Dials, gauges, and a couple of controls fill out the board. Well, if I don't put my seatbelt on and power this up and press this throttle, it's just an immediate death. Buckle up for safety, buckle up. I appreciate the PSA, but come on, Sierra, is this really necessary? So, let's throw the seatbelt on. And now let's power up the pod. And now let's save our game. And now let's press the button that states do not press this button. Oh, you need to leave the launch bay first. Well, I built all that up for nothing. Alright, fine. Leave the launch bay. As you slide the throttle forward, you can feel the Arcada start to shake. We made it with 7 minutes to spare. So now we are gently gliding through deep space. We are saving our game. And now, for real, we are going to press this button that says do not press. You have a feeling you shouldn't have pressed that button. Ouch! I think we've got some serious organ damage here. All of them, of course, could be easily replaced in the time period from which you've just arrived. However, a quick scenery check reveals that you are now in the Dark Ages. The only transplant you'll get here is from carcass to spit over flame. As you draw a few final lungfuls of oxygen through your newly acquired sucking chest wound, you gleefully notice your final resting place is near beautiful Nottingham Castle, universally renowned for its inclusion in Sierra's Conquests of the Longbow. Also available on GOG. Oh my goodness! You're shocked to hear some highly inflammatory language making its way into your auditory canals. Must be some uncivilized ruffians in the nearby pub. Well, you're dead again. We even warned you not to push that button. You have no one to blame but yourself for having to sit through a plug for another fine Sierra product. Maybe you'll follow directions next time. Thanks for playing, and all that stuff. So yeah, a direct sequel to the same joke in Space Quest 1 AGI, in which you find yourself propelled into the Kingdom of Daventry, where you crash into the moat. They do love their shameless plugs. This is pretty much a running joke throughout Space Quest. There's a couple of different instances where you can get into a pod and travel somewhere and find yourself in entirely the wrong place. But we don't want to go to the wrong place. We want to go to the right place. So we are going to press the auto nav button and pray that it takes us to safety. In fact, it will take us to the planet's Corona. Probably safe. Thank you for flying our Arcata Getaway Podlines. It's nearly been a pleasure serving you. Tell a friend if you've got one. Alright, we have crash landed, but we are alive. This is your head. This is your head in a fishbowl. Hey, this baby saved your life. The view out the window, however, might make you regret it. Through the fractured pod window, you see utter desolation spread out before you. You suddenly feel very lonely. Dials galore populate the instrument panel of the pod cabin. Too bad none of them work anymore. This has been rendered inoperable due to the shock of that less than graceful landing. Okay. Let's get out of this pod and see where we've ended up. This ridge of sand helped stop the pod. The hull of the pod has an exquisite sheen. Too bad it is destined to remain a monument to your visit. The lovely, crisp green of the Coronian atmosphere reminds you that you'll need to do some laundry when, or if, you get back home. This is one of the benefits of the VGA version. There's a piece of glass here. A chunk of the highly reflective windscreen rests on the sand at the front of the pod. It, along with your teeth, was jarred loose as a result of the landing's impact. This piece of glass was not so noticeable in the original version of the game. And from the stories that my dad told me, this had them stuck for weeks, maybe even longer, because I'm going to need this piece of glass very soon, and they didn't know it was there, so they had absolutely no idea how to pass through one of the puzzles coming up. And, I mean, good lord. Imagine now, in this day and age, in the 21st century, just imagine being stuck for weeks or months on a game because you have no recourse of finding a solution aside from waiting for a hint book to be published or to call a 900 line and get a hint. And at that time, I'm not even so sure that the 900 line was a thing, so they might have just been shit out of luck for a long time on this. But luckily, we've evolved past that point. We now have glorious 320 by 200 VGA, and we can see the piece of glass in the sand. We can also see our survival kit here. The rugged landing liberated the survival kit from its mounting fixture. Let's grab that. It's that highly reflective piece of broken cockpit glass. A survival kit. Let's open it up, shall we? Upon opening the survival kit, you discover a xenon army knife and a canister of dehydrated water. It's a xenon army knife. The can label says, Pelvitron dehydrated water H2. All you add is air. Makes 10 gallons. Caution, do not attempt to open or rupture container. Misuse could result in personal injury and or flash flooding. Good to know. Let's save our game. Well, we've got to get away from here. Let's go left. I'm sure left is a fantastic idea. And I'm sure our little buddy there won't be coming back to haunt us. Whoa! Those big guys pack a powerful appetite. Did you feel the way that thing just chomped right through your skeletal system? That had to hurt. The Grell burps in solitary satisfaction. He doesn't often get nice warm meals like you. Yeah, so the Grell is going to limit us to only specific areas here on Corona that we can visit on foot. You are at the northwest boundary of a massive skeletal structure. Sand stretches out in all other directions. A wide selection of skeletal accessories awaits your perusal. Vertebrae, ribs, and who knows what else rest upon the Coronian soil. The average height of this structure looks to be at least 7 meters. Good thing you didn't meet this thing in its heyday. Yes, there is a big old skeleton here. Were you a proctologist, you might know what these oddly shaped bones are called. To you, though, they're just bones. Oddly enough, a plant grows in isolated spots in this inhospitable environment. Let's take some, shall we? You snag a small cluster of leaves from the gooey plant. That stuff sticks worse than fortnight-old undergarments. It's a good thing your gloves are Tefloid coated. This looks like it might have been a minimally developed manipulative appendage for the fallen and fossilized beast. This is just south of the Gigundosaurus remains. Ligament jerky deep in the joints is all that holds some of this incredibly huge skeletal components together. This is a massive 3x3 screen scroll of a skeleton. There's a picture up on spacequest.net, I think, of the whole thing kind of pieced together that I'll show right here. And it's actually pretty cool looking, the way that they kind of put this thing together and split it up into three different screens. These foreclaws were once razor sharp, but the forces of the elements have reduced them to oversized blunt toenails. It's a good thing you didn't come here in an earlier time. These things would have torn you a new one. Very dangerous. This must be the skull previously attached to the rest of the mammoth bones partially assembled here. Let's save our game. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot an object hurtling from the greenish atmosphere toward the parched surface you currently occupy. Well, that's not good. Rats. If your eyes don't deceive, that's a Sarien spider droid. They must have detected the escape pod leaving the Arcata. The spider droid must have been sent along to settle any... Good lord. The spider droid must have been sent along to settle any unfinished business. After the jarring impact, small panels open through which the leg sprouts. You recall reading in an old issue of Space Piston magazine that this droid was designed to seek out organic life forms and self-destruct when close proximity to the target has been achieved. That's not good. Maybe we can outrun it? No? Well, how convenient. You've been blown into handy bite-sized chunks. I guess that Space Piston article wasn't fiction. There's nothing quite like stretching out and enjoying the wide open spaces. Well, that wasn't very good. Let's walk into this skull. Ah! Orat! Orat is huge and ugly. Of course, your opinion may differ depending on what part of the universe you come from. You also get the impression that he might be quite mean. Though normally known for his intellectually stimulating conversation in the monster and beast community, Orat seems limited to grunts in the way of response to your probing questions. Oh no! Orat has transformed you into a new piece of recreational equipment. Along with finding this treatment extremely rude, you don't survive it. It's tough to make friends around here. Relax, stretch out, restore, and let's get back to it. There's adventuring to be done. This is very funny to see because when I mentioned in a recent video that I played through King's Quest V recently with a bunch of friends, and when we got to Dink down in the labyrinth, I fully expected Dink to wad us up into a basketball and bounce us, and when he didn't, I was wondering where the hell I had seen that before, and hey, it turns out it's Orat. Alright, let's do what they say and restore our game. Boy, I wonder where that spider droid has gotten off to. Ah, there he is. So there are two ways to handle the spider droid in the Orat, and I'm going to show you one of them. You shiver at the sight of the spider droid entering the cave on its spindly legs. The cold metallic body searches for something to get up close and personal with. This could be interesting. Now that was cool. That killed two problems with no stones. This gleaming chunk of Orat's anatomy is the only visible proof that Orat ever existed. After that explosion, it's amazing there's that much left. You reach down and take the Orat part in your hand. Some of it oozes to fill the space between your fingers. We are going to save our game. We're going to save it as Orat blowed up. And I am going to restore my last game. I think that method gives you more points. Oh, crap. Let's try that again. I need the spider droid to not spawn. There we go. So, one way that I can handle this... Orat, always in the mood for a snack, snatches the can out of the air with his spacious oral cavity, chews and swallows it. He notices a rumbling deep within his abdomen. And that takes care of the Orat. Of course, that still leaves us with the spider droid that we have to take care of. So, let's save our game. So the spider droid can similarly be dealt with in its own method. I love the music for this, by the way. I think I come up here. I don't use this solution very often. Yeah, if you come up the skeleton, he kind of disappears. And I can walk along these bones. Ah, there it is. Okay. Okay, so it's hard to tell that it's loose, but you can push this boulder. It was not known that you are a master of the protrusion toss. That was a fine effort. So yeah, that is the other way of handling the Orat and the spider droid. We now have 51 points. And for blowing them up, we have 53. So you actually get more points for dealing with both of them together. Which is interesting because that seems like the much easier solution. I spent quite a bit of time lining up that boulder shot, a lot more than I expected to. It took me maybe 6 or 7 tries. Anyway, we can now explore this portion of the Corona Desert safely. Erosion has drilled a small hole into the side of this section of vertebrae. What could be in there? Well, let's find out. Cautiously, you decide to investigate further. That should teach you not to be messing around in strange holes. It's a gross picture. Oop. Okay, so I got what I wanted. I got my death. Let's go ahead and move on here and see what we can do on the desert planet of Corona. This spinal structure here has limited times that you can walk across it. Eventually it'll just fall and you'll die. I think you have like 3 times. I'd say that the widening of those cracks is an excellent indication that this thing is not a truly stable unit. And don't you hate the way it makes your brain bounce around like a handball in all that spare cranial space? Right. It looks interesting. Although hard to tell from where you are standing, it may be a sign. If you got closer, maybe you could read it. That seems like an excellent prompt to save my game. Sure enough. Hey, what's the deal here? That elevator isn't lower. It sucks. This is one end of what appears to be a large cavern. The only way to go is to the left. It looks like your standard run-of-the-mill pneumatic transport. This particular model only descends, however, and it's not a pleasant ride. This stalagmite has This stalagmite has obviously been broken loose previously and set back in place. The being responsible, most likely your Coronian counterpart, tried to fool everyone else by using some sticky gunk to hold it together, like that would actually fool anyone. You flex those incredible muscles you wish you had, but you're barely able to snap loose the previously fractured stalagmite tip. It's the cone-shaped tip of a stalagmite. Alright, let's venture deeper. This is the lower pathway, and this is the upper pathway. This is another large chamber in the underground complex. Paths run along the top and bottom ledges. The grate is made of metal and seems to be fastened securely to the floor. It is too dark to see down through the grate. However, an odd smell emanates from the depths of the pit. This whole cave gave me so many nightmares as a kid. It's a great monster. I'll bet he's lonely and just wants to be your friend. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You've been snatched out of existence by the tentacled beast lurking beneath the grate. You feel the painful sting of digestive fluids. Don't stop now. We're having so much fun watching you. Well, if King's Quest V has taught me anything, it's that sometimes you just need to lob some sticky shit at the floor. It's a great monster. At the moment, he's stuck on something. Fortunately, not you. Alright, let's get past here while we can. It's an odd closed door with no apparent mechanism for opening it. This is a pulsating steam geyser. This oddly shaped stalagmite may come in handy. That piece of stalagmite sure makes a good plug. You gaze intently at the greenish pool of liquid, the first real sign of moisture on the planet. The pool seems to have no bottom. The gentle dripping has a soothing effect on your frazzled nerves. A small plume of mist rises as each drop hits the pool's surface. Well, clearly we need to touch this. Well, Scott, looks like Roger's done it again. It sure does, Mark. Let's run that one again with the aid of our new How He Blew It cam and chalkboard. I have to say that carefully, Mark. Every time we mention something with a trademark or copyright, the lawyers come out to feed. I love this gag. Now, this is where Roger makes the fatal move. And we can all see the result of that mistake. And I don't know about you, Scott. Personally, I like to know exactly what I'm messing with before I actually mess with it. I guess he'll know better next time. Ouch. Sure, you've died a few deaths before, but this one really burns you. Planets are depending on you. Seeing you do stuff like this is definitely making them nervous. This goddamn graphic scared the ever-loving shit out of me when I was a kid. I mean, oh my god, this was like, turn my computer off and run, and I've only done that a handful of times, and most of them were with Space Quest. I think this was in Space Quest 3 as well, and Jesus, it still gives me the willies. I don't even want to look at it. I'm just going to restore my save game. Alright, let's avoid that pool. Let's head over this way. These beams seem to form some sort of electronic barrier across the path. Alright, well. Doesn't seem too dangerous. Well, Scott, looks like Roger's done it again yet another time. It sure seems that way. For those who might have missed that last move by Roger, or if, like me, you just want another look at it, let's roll it again. You've got to give some high marks for truly fine execution. We'll have to give it a strong 9.8. You've found quite a number of forms to transform yourself into. This is the first time you've been wafer style. That's also kind of gross. Okay, so we don't want to touch the ooze, and we certainly don't want to walk through the laser beams. This is what had my father and brother stuck for so long. All you need is this piece of highly reflective glass. You have quite cleverly turned the beam upon itself, frying and fusing it into a state of inoperability. Cool. Now it's safe to pass. Here, I will save my game. Now, once again, things that gave me nightmares when I was a kid. Seeing, maybe not so much gave me nightmares, but I very distinctly remember, okay, so the computer was in our dining room, and my bedroom was right off of the dining room, so if my dad was playing a game and I had to go to bed, I would lay there and listen to him play it. And I remember very, very, very distinctly, I don't know how old I was, I couldn't have been more than 5, maybe 5 or 6, probably not even that, maybe even 4. I remember laying in bed and hearing this over and over and over. You are unpleasantly surprised by a drop of searing acid which bores its way to your feet. Now that's some seriously deep pain. Get that off my screen, Jesus. So yeah, I remember hearing that over and over and over again. And I wouldn't be surprised if it did give me nightmares of some kind. Essentially, you have to be deft and you have to dodge these drips. Like so. And now, if we continued walking this way, we'd meet an alien that we can't understand, and we'd be dumped back out unceremoniously to the planet's surface. In fact, let me just show you. As soon as you enter the room, you find yourself surrounded by darkness. Suddenly, you become aware of the fact that you cannot move or speak. A strange, unknown force has taken over. A massive holographic image appears before you. It begins to speak. Zjojib evo sidfj. Jow with Miss Akwikadel will go out for Sulkovo Quatdick. On Vision Majwov with Potwap. With you, there up your for Chinum describing and as an apparent result of your inability to understand the alien tongue, the being has sent you back to the surface. You need some kind of help with that. And you're dumped back to the surface. So what you're supposed to know is that this gadget you picked up is a universal translator. I guess the Star Trek sound effect is supposed to clue you into that. As soon as you enter the room, darkness, can't speak, strange unknown force, holographic image. It begins to speak. So, you have found your way to my hallowed chamber. Fortunately, there is much more to you than meets the eye. I have been monitoring your travels on our planet. It appears that you are up the proverbial estuary without a means of locomotion. In other words, you're on the Leather Express, slapping the dogs, pounding the sand you'd kill for a fine ride. You are obviously in need of transportation. Let us see if you are worthy of our assistance. On the surface lives a beat called Orat. He proves to be a bit of an annoyance on occasion. Dispose of him and bring back evidence of your conquest. Only then will I deal with your plight. Good luck, strange one. Bring to me evidence of the beast Orat's demise, and we'll talk. Alright. You drop the Orat part to the ground. The vision is silent as the dainty morsel splats to the dry soil. You are startled by a rumbling. Suddenly, an oddly shaped door comes into view and slowly opens. You hear a voice, different this time, beckoning you to step forward. When you step through, the door slides closed with a faint hissing sound. You are alone in a large room full of strange equipment. Please, don't be alarmed. We intend no harm. We are a peaceful race. We are cautious, however. Others don't share our way of life. Welcome to Corona. You are standing in the power generation facility of our underground settlement. All power here is produced by steam. That is unimportant to you, however. We have promised you transportation. It is a skimmer. It hovers approximately half a meter above the traveling surface. This is very important because of Grell. Grell and his like dwell in caves below the sand. If you stand on the surface too long, you chance becoming a rare, moist meal for him. The skimmer is programmed to take you to a settlement on the other side of Corona called Yulin's Flats. You can make further travel arrangements there. I am sorry this is all we can offer. I hope your trip is a safe one. Board the skimmer when you are ready to depart. Good luck, strange one. Let's save our game. In fact, let's save our game as Rick at the skimmer. We could hop in that skimmer, but we could look at this computer console. It's a bit archaic by the standards of the Arcada, and it occupies the upper right corner of the room. You notice that it has a cartridge reader, much like the one you remember seeing on the Arcada's computer, except that this one hasn't been blown to smithereens. Well, it's a darn good thing we got this cartridge. The cartridge snaps neatly into the slot and the screen comes alive. Whoever shall read this, my name is Dr. Vohal. I am a scientist with the Star Generator project aboard the Starlab Arcada. We have just successfully completed development and testing of the Star Generator. During this time, I have come to believe that our progress has been monitored by others. I fear that the Sariens may have learned of our mission. If my fears prove true, the Star Generator and the people of our universe are in serious jeopardy. The Star Generator is a miraculous device. Used as intended, it will help preserve life for eons to come. Used as a device for evil, it would cause the destruction of millions of lives and enslave all who oppose the Sariens. Encoded within this cartridge are all the plans and specifications for the construction of the Star Generator. Should any disaster befall the Star Generator project, scientists would be able to create a duplicate of the Star Generator with this information. Please guard it with your life and return it to the Xenon ruling body as quickly as possible. Important note, the Star Generator is capable of self-destruction. This was introduced to the system as a precaution. To activate it, one must enter the code 6662. A 5-minute time will begin to count down. Beware, anyone within 5 kilometers of the star generator will be in danger once the timer has been initiated. Please be careful, and good luck. So there you have it. The code is 6662. Nope, that's a 3. 2. So yeah, if you did not get the correct cartridge, you would not get the code, and at the very end of the game, you would not be able to finish it. Wonderful. As described, this is a sand skimmer, and it looks like it has skimmed quite a bit of sand in its time. On it is a panel which has a small readout, currently dark, and a keyhole with a key in it. These people of Corona sure are an odd-looking lot. You can't pin it down, but you are sure something is different about them. Well, let's hop in. Oops, I had the darn thing in reverse. I hope nobody saw that. This section is an arcade sequence. Would you like to play or skip this sequence? We are going to play it. Oh man. Arcade sequences. The bane of my father's existence. You know what? I want to do that. I want to do that without taking any damage. We're going to try that again. Oh, that time it worked. All right. Yeah, my father hated arcade sequences so much. He was so grateful that he could skip them for the most part in these games. There were many games that he bought because he thought they were adventure games, and it turned out that they weren't. Mask of Eternity being one of the most prolific. Of course, that one also had the King's Quest title, so I can't blame him for thinking that. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey was another one. He bought that. I don't know why he thought that was an adventure game, but he did. And when he found out that it was a action puzzle platformer, he was just immediately disillusioned, and he said, "Here, son, this is yours now. I don't like this game." I can save my game. We're going to save scum. Skimmer. Good thing I saved my game. Yeah, I'm not against cheating. I don't know if this gets me any points, but if it does, I want the damn points. That's another thing my father instilled in me in Sierra games. You get the points. Oh, well, that one killed me. In fact, that's another thing that he would have done, is he would have put his point total in his save game name so that he knew exactly how many points he had at any given save game. You know, this arcade sequence is kind of shitty, but hey, it's better than the one in Full Throttle. Restore. Sierra games at least have that going for them. Their arcade sequences can't suck as much as the one in Full Throttle, because the one in Full Throttle is objectively the worst of all time. And I love Full Throttle. But I'm not afraid to say it, that motorcycle bike ride absolutely sucks. That's right, screaming hot takes here on Saving Often. Alright, I'm getting tired of this skimmer sequence now. Let's just get there. You know, why couldn't this be Monolith Burger from Space Quest 4? Now that's a fun arcade sequence. Alright, we made it through without a scratch. After a truly stone-crushing journey, you have miraculously arrived safely in Yulin's Flats. And just in time, too, because the skimmer's power cell has been drained. It will take some time to recharge itself. This place isn't quite what you had expected. It is semi-bleak at best. An odd-looking fellow is lounging against the wall of a nearby building, watching you with a great deal of interest. Say, pal, I couldn't help noticing your skimmer. It's a genuine 86 Pleiades GL. I've been looking everywhere for one of these babies. How'd you like to unload it for the unheard of price of, 25 buckazoids? If I say he's got a deal, I'm in a fail state. Fine, be that way. Okay, so here we are in Yulin's Flats. We're going to save our game. And let's walk over here and see what's beside the bar. The back of the bar looks about as dingy as the front did. There is a strange pile of very fine white powder here. It has a strange burnt smell to it. This waste disposal port looks as though it's used quite often. Interesting. Let's head back. My, it would appear that your skimmer has become the property of another. I wonder who forgot to remove the key. Yep, you can get your skimmer stolen if you walk away from it. No death, just a fail state. The sand skimmer is a one-passenger mode of transportation, and it looks like it has skimmed quite a bit of sand in its time. Yes, keyhole with a key in it. You remove the skimmer's key from its dashboard. Okay. Let's just walk off screen and head back again. Okay, buddy, you drive a hard bargain. This is my final offer, and I'm only making it because I can see you'd need it pretty bad. I'll make it 30 buckazoids, and I'll throw in this swell jetpack. It was previously owned by a little Thark who only flew it back and forth to Fleabutts on Sunday. It works great in zero gravity. You'll love it. Do we have a deal, or don't we? Great. Glad we could do business. I'll just take that key. Thank you kindly. In addition, I'd like you to have these coupons, good for discounts and free merchandise from some of our local merchants. As a representative of the Yulin's Flats Chamber of Commerce, I hope you enjoy your visit to our friendly little community. All right. So, we have skimmed the sands of Corona, and we have arrived at Yulin's Flats, and it is here that I'm afraid I must take my leave. I will see you again in part 2 of Space Quest 1, which should be our last part. This isn't a very long game. We're about halfway through, so we've got another half to go, and I hope you're enjoying it so far. I hope you'll come back and join me for part 2. Again, I love Space Quest so much. I'm so happy to be playing these games for you. A lot of really good memories, some bad, a lot of really good memories. So if this is your first video of mine that you've seen and you're enjoying it, please go back and check out some of my others. I have a playthrough of Goblin's Quest 3 up, and also a playthrough of the NES version of King's Quest 5. So if you're enjoying this, go back and check those out as well. And otherwise, I will see you next week with part 2 of Space Quest 1. Thank you very much, and remember, save early and save often. Take care.